interest, if anyone's not too local, the building you can see right there, Brook House, features in the film, and I lived there for 21 years, and 2 of the poems in the film are actually about Brook House, I think, if I remember rightly. And I can't perform them outside of the film. It would be wrong. So the stuff I'm going to do tonight is just oddments, different things. First one, we were having a talk up there about children, where they are now. This was actually written about 8 years ago, so somewhat prophetic maybe. Kids. One could just read through all these ones I've got, and please save any applause till the end. Kids, let's go out. Let's have fun. Let's knock a door and run. Let's freak out. Let's have a ball. Write bad words on the library wall. Let's do rude things in posh places. Press on windows, making faces. Let's go nicking. Let's bunk school. Let's break every rule. Let's throw stones. Let's burn cars. Let's do drugs in sleazy bars. Let's have guns. Let's have fights. Let's lay waste all human rights. Let's do murder. Let's go mad. Let's blame mum and dad. Next one is something I notice in the so-called common press sometimes is they run out of anecdotes and little stories. For some reason, they seem to pop one in about spontaneous combustion. It's like they keep them on the side. I think, oh, that's a great filler, you know. People love stories about people just vanish for no reason in their living room, you know, sometimes leaving no trace. So this one's called Doris. As Doris done and dusted, she spontaneously combusted. Tom observed his wife become the light of his life. He watched the conflagration with poorly disguised elation, or at least a small sensation of disassociation, having saved our ailing nation the cost of one cremation. He gave himself a very short and quietly sad ovation. Not a pleasant item. If it was, you'd just light him. And somehow, loath to manoeuvre, he opted for the Hoover. It seemed quite wrong to move her. And when the policeman came and saw the enamoured dame, they asked Tom for her name, and he said, well, to my shame, I called her my old flame. I often sat on the porch with her, and even carried a torch for her. He said she was a fighter, as he fiddled with his lighter, a lady sent to test us, more usually with swan vestus. And later, in the court, Tom felt that he ought to deny a major yearning for any spousal burning, as far as previous wives with somewhat similar lives. Throughout the rest of the trial, Tom opted for denial, and even stayed off the dating scene for just a little while. Finally, in the Fire trilogy, there's one here about a little boy. This is my favourite, a little boy called Walter. There was a boy called Walter who liked to burn things down. First, he burned his brother. Then he burned the town. Some people live for money, and others for desire. But little Walter Paget liked a little fire. Could anyone not adore this boy? Would you remove his little toys and dash his simple joys? They put him in a special home with iron bars and latches, and every Christmas day he got a box of matches. I went back to the home last week. The street was scorched and brown. It seems the home is there no more, and neither is the town. Oh yeah, there is another one. Yeah. I must have really been on a fire trip at this time. This is a personal one. This is my own view of it, really. In dubious desire, I set myself on fire, and to my deep regret, I sit and smoulder yet. There's little jubilation in instant immolation. I sit and sip my tea with lips that used to be. I saunter in the park as if I'm Joan of Arc. Next one is about, I've noticed in this world, that every now and again, society or business or governments dump something on us that we don't want, but we're going to pay for anyway. I think the next one of those may well be the driverless car. So I've written about that. It came tonight, my driverless car. It mainly circles. It doesn't go far. I ordered an electric one. It seems they sent an eclectic one. Entitled Hybrid, but rather thin, half car perhaps and half biscuit tin. It lacks a gearbox and has no clutch. In fact, it hasn't got very much, with all the romance and beauty of a rabbit hutch. Maximum speed 20, really quite plenty. As far as I know, there's nowhere left to go. I set the sat-nav for homeward bound, and it just goes round and round. Next one's a bit of a departure. It's, I had a good friend in the 70s, an artist in Chelsea, who called himself, I forget his real name, he called himself Martian Warlord. And he had a studio, he was doing very well, Martian Warlord in the 70s there. Somewhere along the line, his partner committed suicide. And to cut a long story short, he ended up, they decided the best way they could help Martian Warlord through his resultant depression and problems was to get him into hospital and give him electric shock treatment. And he told me, he explained it to me, he said, it's like they whack you on the head with a big hammer. It might work, it might not. Yeah. Apparently they're still doing this, but this is about that. After the ECT, there was very little left of me, although, according to an official letter, I was thought to be somewhat better. Good, they said, for the public purse, even though I'm 10 times worse. After the ECT, there was very little left of me, just a shell and toasty smell. Volts and jolts and lightning bolts, which made me instantly forget. And yet, I like to sit here now, on my chair of choice. No laughter in my smile, no humour in my stare, thinking of naught, mercifully relieved of the burden of thought. The little doctor lived out his somewhat dubious life in permanent frazzled panic from ward to ward. Like fingernails scratching down a blackboard, he dared to say he cared, and feared somehow that he would soon be sitting where I am now. It's plain to see that after the ECT, there's very little left of me. Next two are both love poems, and both of them are connected with the sea for no particular reason, but they are. Time fell like confetti, and we danced through our days. We were kissed by the sun in the warmth of the haze. Our skin smelled of June, and as our hearts beat in tune, we whispered our secrets in the shadow of the moon. But the wind cannot sing, and the snow doesn't know. The stars only danced to the ocean's flow, and the clouds drift away as the sun starts the day, and the sky knows it all when the rain starts to fall. We stood, you and me, on that hill by the sea. As the long summer days fell like leaves from a tree, we laughed at the tickles of our toes in the sand, and the unsaid words in the touch of a hand. But the sea only smiles and the sand has no sound. We stood in the place where the sky kissed the ground. So we laughed at the sun and we called to the skies, too old to care but too young to be wise. There by the pier to the touch of the mist, our laugh turned to silence as we finally kissed. Faces flushed in the dusk, and now the dying day and the run of the tide took our childhood away. But sky did not see and the waves didn't care, and the moon found her way in the midnight air. And to the sound of a gull we were gone, you and me, as we waved our farewell to the gathering sea. Second love poem is one of those where I hope it builds up pictures. I like the visual side of poetry. You can hear the sound of the ocean. You can hear the quiet commotion of the waves. Waves of wisdom, wise water, knowing all you have to know. Take me with you where you go, and forever we will flow, you deep blue sea. It was a little blue house nestling by the sea, you and me, breathing in the first whispers of that spring, as dusk flooded the seascape and I sat by the window and played a little baby grand piano, cute and coy and shiny, like a little black girl. You can hear the sound of the ocean. You can hear the quiet commotion of the waves. I can feel you here beside me, listening to the rhythm and the wisdom of the deep blue sea. The solitary seagull curved across the sky with a single lovelorn cry as he made his way home to his lover, his little house by the sea, you and me, listening to the rhythm and the wisdom of the deep blue sea. It was then I saw the man across the dune, a solitary, gaunt silhouette, prodding his stick with the careful gait of an elderly walker. He seemed to catch some fragment of the melody as the piano notes flowed out through open windows across the sand. He paused in his halting stride, as if drinking in the sound, then turned his face skyward, as if he thought the music came from there. He could hear the sound of the ocean, he could hear the quiet commotion of the waves, and he walked on, hopefully somehow richer for that moment. The very next morning, I walked you to the train. I never saw you again. Though we had no notion, the sound of the ocean was lost in the commotion, and the waves in all their wisdom, like us, were gone, but somehow whispered on. You can hear the sound of the ocean. You can hear the quiet commotion of the waves, you and me, listening to the rhythm and the wisdom of the deep blue sea. And finally, very short, called Married Life. I posed an inquisition. Would it be an imposition to try a new position? And awaited her decision. It seemed to cause decision. It seemed to cause division and was met with sheer derision. So we settled for tradition and watched the television. Thank you.